Hey there guys, this is Victor with Victor Vector JKU, back in the garage, and today we're going to be talking about installing the Apex Designs RPVs on Dirtylife DT-1s. Let's get into it. Alright guys, so today I want to talk about Apex Designs RPVs, or Rapid Precision Valves, and we're going to be specifically talking about the extended lengths, the XL versions of these. When Apex Designs first came to market with this product, I was super interested, and I was kind of hesitant though, because I had a couple of things that were kind of preventing me from feeling really comfortable with it. So when I was running my 37 by 1250 R17 Firestone MTs on the original steel wheels I purchased with that set, I kept ripping the valve stems off. I would get a rock or a stick into the rim, and then as I'm spinning the tire, it would just drag right across the valve stem and shear it right off. This was my most common failure when I was running the steel wheels. So I didn't feel confident investing in these new valve stems and potentially running into cases where I started ripping them out of the steel wheels. Now, I ended up upgrading to the Dirtylife wheels, and I was still very interested. But at the time that I invested in these, I was looking at them and I noticed that the depth and countersink of where the valve stem sits is super deep. And I was like, I don't know if they're gonna work. One, not necessarily just because the total depth, but because access to the valve to be able to release the pressure. So if you couldn't tell, I have actually already installed the RPVs in the XL length on my Dirtylifes, so clearly it does work. But when I ordered them last week, I was still skeptical if they were going to work or not. So let's go ahead and talk about a little bit of the research I did to get myself to a place where I was comfortable enough to try purchasing them and seeing if the install would work. So first I reached out to Apex Designs USA, and I was asking, hey, do you guys know of anybody that's been running your RPVs on any Dirtylife style wheels, specifically the dual techs, so either the DT1s or the DT2s, because I'm guessing that the DT1s and DT2s share common features with how they construct the wheel and the recess of where the valve stem sits. Unfortunately, they didn't have any data, they didn't know of anybody that was, and from what I've been looking around on social media, I haven't seen anyone that's explicitly stated that they are running them with the Dirtylife DT1s or DT2s. So I think I'm kind of first case using these on these wheels. I'm not 100% sure, I could be wrong about that. In conversation with Apex Designs, they did mention all the specs that they list on their website about the necessary depth that you need for both the standard and the extended lengths. And so they provided me with the necessary depth for the XLs, which is 0.75 inches. So I went and I measured the depth of the cavity here to the shallowest point, which is to the center of the wheel, and I found that to be right about 700 thousandths. So that's 0.7 inches versus the 0.75 that you need to have to be able to install these. Reason for that 0.75 is the access to the little pull tab for releasing the pressure. So if you are exactly 0.75, then that means you don't really have clearance to get in there and be able to pry up on it. So that's where my concern really came in, was, will I be able to functionally use this valve stem to deflate my tires, or will it be an interference and really provide no benefit? Now, one other thing that is mentioned in both the instructions as well as from their website is that if you flip the seal or O-ring the opposite direction versus what the instructions say, you can actually increase that clearance to about 850 thousandths or 0.85 inches. Now, I evaluated both when I was installing them, and we're going to go and talk through a little bit of which direction I chose and why I chose it. So, as you guys might notice, I don't have my Firestones mounted on these wheels anymore. It was an opportune time that my buddy Jason K_JKU, was upgrading to 42s, and so he was looking to sell his 40s. So he hit me up and said, hey man, you interested? And I said, yes, I want them. This provided the opportunity for me to be dismounting the Firestones to install the Apex Designs RPVs XL. Basically what I did was I took my wheel and tire package down to Discount Tire, had them dismount the Firestones, had the wheel separated, I cleaned it up, and I began installing the RPVs. Now in the process of installing it with the seal flipped both directions, I decided to go with the shallower version where it's 0.75 versus 0.85 inches. Reason for this is a couple. One, I wanted to make sure that the valve stem stayed more tucked in as possible. Now granted, if you have, say, thicker fingers, or you want to have a little bit more clearance, you can of course flip it the other way and get that little bit of additional clearance. But I just didn't want to have the valve stem extending much further beyond the face of the wheel, or at least the spokes I should say, because it is tucked in completely behind the beadlock ring, but it is a little bit proud of where the spokes come out to. So just to make sure this stays safe, up here in Washington, where we're talking about having a lot of roots, trees, rocks, things that are protruding out and could potentially cause damage, I just don't want to see that I bust off a valve stem and then have to replace the valve stem. So unfortunately, I did not take any video of the install process, but I did take some images. So as I walk through the steps with you, I'll go ahead and put those up on the screen so you guys can see exactly what I'm explaining. So first thing that I'm going to mention is I did follow the instructions that are provided. So it's a little single sheet and it has two sides. It explains how the RPV should be assembled and the options to be able to flip it to gain that extra 100 thousandths of an inch for the seal. Then the backside provides you with the torque specs as well as a QR code to be able to find further details on the installation instructions. First thing that you're going to do with the valve stem sealing location cleaned on both sides, you're going to first start off with installing the valve stem, and then what you're going to do is orient the O-ring so that the smaller OD can sit up inside of the valve stem hole in the wheel. After that, you can go ahead and then seat the O-ring or seal into place. And then you're going to want to apply a little bit of oil or lubrication to the back side of the seal where the nut is going to interface with it, because while the nut is being tightened, you don't want to spin and tear that seal. So that's the reason for that. Next, you're going to put a little bit of blue or red Loctite, as the instructions call out, on the nut. And you're going to go ahead and install the first nut onto the valve stem. Go ahead and bring that guy in snug, and then you're going to tighten him down per the instructions, which call out 25 to 45 inch-pounds. And then you're going to bring in your TPMS mount if you choose to install that. And then you're going to, again, apply a little bit of blue or red Loctite to the second nut and install that guy to, again, 25 to 45 inch-pounds. Now, prior to torquing that, you want to test with just putting your TPMS sensor onto that and rotate it around in the correct orientation that's going to provide you the best clearance. If you do not put this in the right direction, it could cause an issue when you seat the tire onto the wheel, and you could potentially damage your TPMS sensor. And then when you're done, go ahead and install your TPMS, and you're going to be installing that guy to 12 inch-pounds. So installation is pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Honestly, I was able to hammer out all 5 of my wheels pretty quick. And the Apex kit comes with 4 in 1. And then what I did to be able to get my spare was I ordered 1 additional one so that I had a total of 5. And then I ordered these through Northridge 4x4, which is just on the other side of the Puget Sound of where I live. So I like ordering through them. They're a great company. They have great customer service. I actually have a few friends that work there, and they always have some of the best and fastest shipping. Typically it's $9.99 flat rate shipping, but if you spend over, I think, $75 or something like that, shipping's free. And typically it's like 2-day shipping for me being local to the Northridge 4x4 up here in Silverdale. So typically my packages show up super fast, which has been great for my short-term duration before I'm leaving for Moab. That, and also being able to get these valve stems on short notice to be able to install in the quick turn time between getting my Firestones dismounted from the wheels and then me and Jason installing his used Cooper SCT Pros onto my wheels. So with the final state of the valve stem installed, you don't have a whole lot of space between the deflation lever and the casting of the wheel. So it's kind of tough to get your finger in there. And basically what I found the measurement to be is right about 200 thousandths of clearance, so 0.2 inches. So you're talking less than 1/4 of an inch, so it's a little bit tricky to get in there. Now, one thing that I've found that kind of helps out, because the O-ring is a little bit sticky, so trying to just pull it straight out sometimes is difficult. What I found is if you take the lever and you rotate it left and right, it'll actually loosen it up enough to be able to then pull it out a little bit easier. So, and that's not a bad thing. The O-ring is just nice and tight in there, and I'd prefer to have it that way. But I just found that to be a little bit easier to be able to get that lever to pull out. Otherwise, it's quite difficult. Now, I haven't gone through and done a time trial of how fast this deflates. Me and my buddy Jason, we were going to actually time both me deflating these and his with his monster valves and seeing how fast and what the comparison is, but I'm sure other people have done that already. So, go check out and see if you can find something on somebody else that's done an install video on the RPVs on a different series of wheels and see how quickly they can air down. So hopefully this comes as really great news for some of you out there that are running Dirtylife wheels and have been interested in running the Apex Designs RPVs and the XLs. If you enjoyed today's video, please be sure to give it a like, comment down below, and share it with any of your friends and on any social media platforms that you use to help me grow my channel. And if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to help my channel grow. Well, with that, guys, we are Victor Vector JKU. We're taking on this build and the trails, both direction and magnitude. Have a good one. We'll catch you next time.